Hello. Welcome to Signal the Noise, episode 2. We're going to keep this thing going, man. How you doing, Andrew?
I'm doing pretty well, Brian. Pretty well. How about yourself?
I'm doing okay. Um, in the little prep call we just had a second ago, I'm not sure how we're doing. We're a little exhausted. We'll get to that in a second. Um, Signal the Noise brought to you by RY Rocket. We're a market once company. And I'm Brian Lamar, Andrew DeSillis, and we're happy to be here talking about news and events in marketing research and trends. And today's episode, we'll talk a little bit about what we've been up to for the past week and a half.
Mm-hmm.
A couple news stories, a couple trends we're seeing, maybe a little rant at the end. But thank you all for listening. We really appreciate it. It's going to be back on the air. This is just an easy segue. For me personally, it was good to get out, and now I'm actually talking to clients and getting on the road. And I'm already complaining about it, and it's been a week. Um, But man, been fun traveling with you again. So yeah, I think we'll start off with that. Like the past week and a half or so, been in front of a few clients.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Most of them we've already known, built relationships with in the past. So for me, at least, it's re-engaging. You've been re-engaging a little bit ahead of me, so you're a few months ahead of me in terms of that. But I hadn't talked to a lot of these people in almost exactly a year and a half or more, closer to 2 years.
Yeah. Yeah. It's a reunion tour. Reunion
Oh yeah,
tour.
so much fun seeing people and giving them tough questions and
Mm-hmm.
having to be smart and prepping and helping them solve problems. That's what I love to do. I know that's what you love to do too. So I don't know how many people we visited the past week and a half, and if we include lunches and stuff, that's probably close to. I don't know. We probably saw at least 100 different people.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And you know, just when you said our prep call, are we really doing okay? What a time! What a time in marketing research. Hearing a lot of similar trends from our clients, a lot of things that are either new or more exacerbated in just the last 12 to 18 months. And honestly, they all seem to be accelerating in the last 30 to 60 days. So yeah, we're a little tired from travel, but excited to have an episode. If you listen to the entire intro episode, thank you for doing that. But really kind of digging into some macro trends from the unique viewpoint of this world tour. Being able to meet with so many people and have these in-depth personal conversations with them that we hope to distill down to some useful trends and thoughts for you over the next 20-30 minutes.
You want to start with our things learned from the road, or maybe not learned, but confirmed for me.
You know, the one thing that we talk to every single researcher about is data quality. It's the main reason people are going to be listening to this podcast in general. It's the topic at every conference. It's every single phone call. Probably 30% of the emails that I send, Brian. People are talking
Yep.
about data quality. And while I don't have some, aggregate quantitative measure of what's going on across all of my clients, we do have that for the studies that we field. Really confirmed for me over the past few weeks that the panels who traditionally have been able to deliver good enough quality with high feasibility and economical CPIs, these are all the ones that everyone listening works with all the time. There's been what seems to me to be a pretty severe degradation in respondent
Yep.
quality. Now, is that people using AI? Is it more sophisticated bots? Is it a higher percentage of communities of cheaters? Is it further commoditization of sample and disengagement of respondents? I don't think that's a rhetorical choose one. I think it's all of the above.
Yeah.
Every single researcher that we talk to, I was throwing out to them, oh my gosh, yeah, it's crazy. I think people are throwing out 20 to 30% of data. And at least half of them said, that's low. How do I get 20? Oh my goodness.
Yeah, completely agree. I knew this would be the big topic because it was almost as if we have the same conversation everywhere we went.
Mhm.
It's been getting worse. And, I was out of it for a good year of kind of studying online quality, and so I have a little gap, and I can, when you get away from it for a little while, you can kind of see the difference when you do it every single day, the changes, you don't quite notice the little changes over
It
time.
it's the frog in the boiling water, right? But
Exactly.
you're right. Yep.
Man, the data quality is that frog boiling, man, and um, I can't believe how bad it's really gotten. And this isn't of a lack of effort by individual panel companies or the industry. Everybody is working really hard to improve quality, and it's just sometimes I think it might be a losing effort. It's just getting worse. I think, and another thing is our clients and everyone is spending way too much time cleaning it. That is a
Yep.
large portion of what they're doing. When
Yep.
I managed our panel network, I bet I could have named 30 really high quality panels that I could very confident could go out there and you're going to remove a very small amount of people. I mean, I struggle with five now.
Yep, I was gonna say 5. And one of the things that's really interesting as well so here we're at ROI, everyone is like 100% validated super deeply. It's also checked manually by our panel team, lots of third-party databases, researching these people, right? That's how we get removal rates that are like sub 5. And now that I'm here, I'm like, okay, well, what am I gonna add to that effort so that I'm not jumping from 5 to 30, or so that it's not this like actual change in the product and service that we're delivering. It's interesting. There are new panels who I have not worked with in the past who are doing this level of verification, who I will field alongside us. But they have the same limitations that ROI Rocket does. The panels are not huge because guess what? It takes a long time, a large investment in manual effort in order to create panels like this. And so those companies, panels, communities who have been doing this by, we'll call it traditional, we'll call it uh, status quo, accepted practices. I'm not going to say best practices, but accepted practices for recruiting and verification. It's just not delivering anymore. And the frustration that you could see on people's faces when they were talking about how much time they were spending cleaning data. I mean, this is no longer a researcher pain point. We had incredibly high level conversations around how this is affecting the operational capacity of our clients, how it's affecting cost of goods sold. And had that conversation again and again and again. And I'd love to talk a little bit more about your hypotheses for why that's happening, even though I think we all kind of know, and potential solutions. But as far as the trends, we got to talk about this. I think people are going to want to hear about kind of how the year is going from like a
Yeah,
volume sales spend perspective. We had
yeah.
that conversation quite a few times and some good news stories to discuss there.
That was
But
my next topic was the
yeah,
trend of the economic and uh, financial stability of the industry.
right. But
Yeah,
so let's dive into this data quality piece though, because
yeah,
it is just something that we're probably going to talk about a little bit at least once a month. It's the biggest reason why people are listening, if you have to ask me.
yeah.
Well, that and they just want to hear Brian Lamar sound smart, right? Like you said at the beginning. Easy for you, people would confirm. But yeah, this data quality and how we can field research without half of the process being cleaning out the junk, and how we can trust the work that we're doing at all. It is just, it's always been on the top list of priorities, but it is at the top in place 2, 3, 4, and 5 right now.
We can't talk about this enough. We could talk about this for hours and hours and hours. And one thing it did do was it really reconfirmed that and I'm sure you feel the same way, made the right move in going to where we currently work because we do, as you said, we work at a great place that has a panel team that spends all day long validating people and calling them and texting them and emailing them and doing investigative techniques to make sure they are who they say they are. Um, yeah, we can talk about this all day. And what one another interesting part of this is what we've heard some. If you follow the news, it's going to get a bigger. We're not competing against the Dynadas and the Tolunas and the Scents in the world. We still are, although I think that in my role, we're competing more with a lot of the management consulting. I'm sorry, more of the expert network type people. But now we're going to start to compete against synthetic sample.
Yep.
That is a threat And I think Tim Wilson, I think he's the one that coined this, and if I'm wrong, it could have been you. You're both very smart. Is some companies are starting to think that the bot you know is better than the bot you don't know, and
Mhm.
they're going to build their own. And that was I wouldn't say that was a huge topic, but it's out there for sure. And if you read the news, everybody's investing in it. And so, for in terms of back to data quality, that's a whole other threat. Is and once people start losing confidence in the entire industry, which we talked to at least one person who I don't think trusts panel data at all. Once that happens, once that trust deteriorates, and the amount of money that it costs to do research, people are going to start shifting to, at least investigating it, at least evaluating it, exploring other options.
Yeah.
And that's a real threat that's out there. That's a whole nother podcast episode, I think.
Yeah. Well, in what I think that we're going to see, probably this is probably a 12 to 24 month hypothesis. We'll see if I'm right. Um, a lot of times we've been talking about this pendulum, right?
Yeah.
It is the pendulum swinging back to quality. Are people going to start, you know, justifying a premium for sample in which they can be more confident? And I no longer think that's the case. I think what's going to happen is that we're going to see right now there's kind of a bell curve, right? Where there are some clients who are using ultra premium sample, very validated. Perhaps brands are electing to use those solutions for really high risk decisions. There's a lot of research done in the middle. And then there are some who need really agile research done really quickly, really economically. And there's kind of bargain high volume providers on the other end of the bell curve. I think that's going to invert. We're going to see a large valley in the middle, and you're going to have more folks who are providing this really validated, really verified, frankly, close to one-to-one relationship with panelists.
Yep.
And it's really almost qualitative in nature. Um, Companies who segment their qual and quant panels, we don't. But this is like if you're a large panel company and you have a qual and quant panel, your quant panel is going to go away. And on the other end of that, they're going to have synthetic sample. Now, what do we mean by that? I saw some interesting LinkedIn posts, research on research being done around the accuracy of synthetic panel. I'm not sure how that test was designed, and it's anecdotal. I won't cite it because I don't know enough about it. But the gap between a verified Federal Reserve statistic, primary sample with real respondents, and then the synthetic sample was quite large. I think there was like a 12% difference between the federal statistics and the real panel, and then a 50% gap with the synthetic panel. Now, I don't know if they were, uh, just asking that question of a synthetic panel or if it was used to model, but that will be the bridge. We're going
Yeah.
to have a lot of spend on synthetic sample on one side, whether that's by volume or dollars, and a really large spend on this hyper verified high quality sample on the other. And bridging the gap, I think, will be synthetic panels and or advanced modeling that we will use to extrapolate more insights from the respondents in which we can actually be confident. And that's going to be the name of the game, is if we are really, really sure that unfortunately the 16 people of a particular subgroup instead of 160, if we know that those 16 are who we say they are, then we can train a synthetic panel. Maybe we use MRP. So, who knows what we're doing to get there, but we can use that to then make the data apply to a much broader offline population. That's going to be what's happening going forward, because the sampling bias or randomization error that's inherent in a smaller subset, are we really doing our insights justice by saying, well, yes, there were 160, but 80 of them weren't paying attention and 30 of them weren't real?
Yep.
And I think unless we can find a way to verify well and to engage people to participate in research, that's problem number two.
Yeah.
If we cannot do that at scale, then we're going to see this huge valley in the middle of that bell curve. Um, Tim has described it well as a barbell effect. He doesn't think it's going to be a valley. He thinks there's going to be nothing in the middle at all. And then trying to extrapolate as many insights as we can from a smaller, more validated population.
Yeah, we could. I'll try to close this up so we can move on. But I don't disagree at all. The middle is the complicated part. I'm convinced that there is a space for the premium panels that have built this one-to-one relationship that can do qual and quant, that we can prove to you who they are. We know their name, we know where they work, we know their LinkedIn, we know what they do and where they do it and their roles, responsibilities. That is going to exist, whether that's a $30 CPI or a $100 CPI. The market will probably determine that. But I think that the future of these niche panels and premium panels, that's, and I think that your timeline is right. 12 to 24 months is going to play out like that. And then I don't know what's going to happen to the $2 consumer world. That's gonna be a whole different story, but we should probably move on, or we're gonna do another hour long podcast.
You're probably right. We have lots of thoughts about this, so please reach out to us if you want to talk synthetic, you want to talk modeling, you want to talk data quality. We have opinions. We're here.
Yeah, if you differ, we'd love to have you on. You're talking to other people. You have your own opinions, and we're not economic forecasters, and we just kind of have our ears to the ground and hearing what's going on. Next trend for me, and this is probably a quick one, is the usage of AI.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like everybody's trying to use it a similar way at the executional level. So, you're and I are talking to clients almost every day, and we're providing some sort of, either it's a bid or it's some sort of point of view on something, using AI to kind of clean that up, make it more professional, make it sound a little smarter, doing some research on it. I think that that's pretty prevalent in the industry. I think at the higher level, there's a lot of investment going on and a lot of bigger AI use cases are going on. But at the individual level, I think a lot of people are using. We had a whole slide on it. I'm sure you could recite that off the top of your head. But use cases for different AI platforms like Claude and Perplexity and ChatGPT. There's a
Mm-hmm.
million others out there. And Gemini, Grok. I use all of them because I run out of
Mm-hmm.
tokens for a couple of them. I only have a premium membership in a couple of them, but I thought that was a trend that almost everybody said they're using AI.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, yeah, absolutely. And I think that we need to be. It's only going to make us better. The official stance of the Insights Association, gosh, by a year and a half ago, the last time they had an IA national conference, was artificial intelligence will not replace a single researcher, but researchers who use artificial intelligence will replace those who don't. And I think that's true now more than ever.
And to me, the key, if you're listening, you don't use AI, start using it, and it'll become a habit. I know you and I, but we use this in our personal life too,
Oh, yeah.
and it's just a habit of instead of like googling something, it's kind of, I don't know what the term is, but you're GPTing something or whatever that is. That's how I think about challenges in life, is to go to some sort of AI method.
Yep. And if you're trying to become a more AI native researcher, quick tips and tricks, focus on the quality of your prompts.
Yeah,
That's going to be the biggest thing. Focus on the quality of your prompts. There's lots of good content on LinkedIn. Get on LinkedIn, follow some people who are LinkedIn AI influencers. They'll give you lots of good things to try.
last trend that I had, I'm sure you agree with this, is that I think that, how do I say this? Economic factors have created a lot of challenges. I think our industry is growing, but very cautiously. I think then we can see this across different industries, that there's money to be spent. The economy's not poor, but I think that people are very cautious, and especially when you talk about things like tariffs, trade tensions around the world, that's
Mm-hmm.
causing things like budgets
Mm-hmm.
to be more scrutinized. It's forcing us to be more efficient. It's causing slowing down the spend. Do you agree with that?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. And, we have an interesting vantage point as a market once company because of the amount of work that we do with private equity firms, with management consulting firms, where we can really see what the venture capital, PE, investment banking, those spaces really are the ones who kind of move dollars around, if you will. And they have more capital than they ever have, meaning they're not deploying it, right? And a lot of that, I think, I heard a great analogy last night at dinner, and shout out, you know who you are if you're listening. But they said, it kind of reminds them of 6 months into COVID, right? Now we're 6 months into
Yes.
this presidency, well, 8 months in, but similar time frame. Into this presidency, all of the tariffs flying around, things happening. What's actually going to happen to the economy? Is the big beautiful bill going to go through? What's actually in it? So on and so forth. And the uncertainty precludes investment. People
Yeah.
want to be cautious. But we're now reaching this point where it's like, okay, well, things are uncertain, but they've been uncertain long enough, and we have to do something. We can't just sit here
Yeah.
and wait for clarity. And similar to 6 months into COVID, I think that's where we are now, where it's like, look, yeah, there's still a lot of economic uncertainty, but we can't just not do anything anymore. The amount of time has elapsed where it's time to begin taking action. And a lot of us are seeing that in the projects that we're being commissioned for. We're winning things from January, right? It
Yeah.
didn't take that long to make that decision. They just
Right.
decided, well, not yet. And then now these resources are being deployed. Um, from like a pipeline perspective, I think the last, and this has been confirmed by several of my clients anecdotally, last 2 to 3 weeks, huge spike in RFQ activity. And I think we are going to start to see a pretty big uptick through Q3 and Q4 as those funds are redeployed.
Well, they agree, and maybe this is the new economy: is that it's always uncertain. We've been uncertain now since probably the end of 2019, when COVID started kind of creeping up in Europe, and I don't know. I feel like the economic uncertainty's been a theme for 6+ years now. Any other trends you want to talk about on our little trip?
No, I think that's good for this episode. We can, we're still going to be on the road next week. So we can
Yeah.
certainly do another round of what our clients are telling us in our next episode.
Awesome. Do a little industry news real quick, and I think I'll do the second story first because it lends itself to our last little topic. Is that WPP lowers its forecast after a challenging first half. CEO Mark Reed blamed a challenging trading environment with macro pressures intensifying,
Mhm.
as well as lower net new business. And I love with the press releases when they do earnings reports. The quote, "A challenging trading environment with macro pressures intensifying," is such an interesting little statement that means a lot, but also means kind of nothing. um,
Mhm.
so this kind of confirms. I'm not sure if you have anything to add to this, but it's interesting when WPP lowers its forecast.
Yeah, I don't have too much to add to that because it's a very great parallel to what we were just discussing, right? I think that a company as large as WPP, and then like, look, we're familiar with all of their market research brands, but there's a lot of other things going on there. So it's a
Oh yeah, ad spend is
decent,
huge.
yeah, decent litmus test for what's going on. I always joke like buying Procter and Gamble stock is like buying a CPG index fund.
Yeah,
WPP, huge company, also relatively indicative of what's going on in market research and advertising. Um, so yeah, I think anyone who's feeling the pain of kind of a flat summer, you're very much in the norm. And if you're having a great summer, lots of growth this year, kudos to you, because it's certainly been a challenging environment.
and he set expectations as well. Performance in June is worse than anticipated, and we expect this pattern of trading in the first half to continue in the second half.
Mhm.
Really set lowering expectations into Q3 of this year, which I thought that was rather interesting.
Yep, absolutely. I'll throw another one in there. This story is about 3 days old, so you may have heard it or not, but Nielsen IPO Roadshow.
Yeah.
That's pretty exciting. We love to see companies in our space, go public. Big M&A dollars are always exciting because there's so much value in what we do. But the number here is why I wanted to talk about it. Targeting a
Damn.
valuation of $7 billion. Um, and that's looking to actually raise 1.2 billion across their 50 million shares, so going out at a price of $20 to $24 each. That's a fantastic valuation that I think, they certainly deserve that, and IQ is a great, wonderful business doing a lot of good work, good research. And it's just exciting to have numbers like that thrown around for market research and insights companies. Conversely to WPP, that does a lot of other things, and IQ is very research based, and love to see that kind of financial sector activity in market research. Rising tide raises all ships. We have time for a rant on what I think like PE backed and VC backed investment do to market research companies. When that happens, I certainly have my opinions there, but in general, it's great to see money coming into research because with money follows innovation.
Absolutely, this is a great move, I think, and I just perplexityed how many billion-dollar valuation companies there are in marketing research. And marketing research is such a loose term, but IQVIA, Nielsen, Kantar, Ipsos, Qualtrics, Circana.
Yep,
Um,
absolutely, Circana. Yep.
one of those that, because a little bit different. The IRI and NPD kind of fly under the radar a little bit sometimes, but definitely well over $1 billion. Curious about like the morning consults of the world. They're going to be close, so I think that to kind of tie all this together, despite the challenges that we're having as an industry with quality, despite the challenges with the economic forecasting, people value our industry.
Yes.
And you can see that with a $7.1 billion valuation for a Nielsen IQ. And you can see that with all of the other $1 billion valuations and sales and the amount of investment in this industry.
Mhm.
And so I've always thought, and I've said this over and over and over again, we can make some significant improvements to the quality of the data. We can become more efficient using innovation, which innovation was barely a word we used in marketing research until about 15 years ago, in my opinion. We can really, rising tide lifts all boats. This industry is set to take off with just a few good moves, I think. And so that to me, that despite the gloom and doom of data quality, which we hear every day and is very frustrating for people, when you take a step back and you realize how much people value our insights and how much they want our insights, we're in a good spot overall. Yeah.
Agreed. Brian, do we have time for a research rant?
Well, yeah, let's do a research rant. Do
All
you
right.
have one?
You kick it off.
I think the research rant that I have is that I'm going through a lot of profiling surveys
Hmm.
but here with all of our different panels at ROI, which probably don't know, but we have, I don't even know, we have a new panel pop up all the time. I didn't know um we had an Ask Men panel now that we've
Ask guys. Ask
Ask Guys,
guys.
is that what
Yeah.
it is? Yeah.
Yeah.
So we have an Ask Moms panel. It's been around for quite a while. Moms panel. Lots of people on Moms panel. Very valuable segment. Now we have a Ask Guys panel. My rant, and this is not just to RI Rocket. This is an industry wide rant in that we have not aligned on how to profile people. We have not allowed how to ask basic questions, and that is just crushing the respondent experience. And we've tried to align in certain areas, and we couldn't even align on things like gender or ethnicity, or racial background, or basic demographics. We can't align on. Imagine how we ask other profiling questions about the company size and what your roles and responsibilities are, and lots of different profiling questions. So we therefore, what do? We ask them over and over and over again. Every client asks them different. Every sampling company is profiling a little bit differently. And so there was an effort a few years ago to try to align on this that made a little bit of progress due to like, APIs. It's best if you're sent and you're gonna API with hundreds and hundreds of companies that you have the exact same apples to apples profiling variable. Um, doesn't exist. There's lots of reasons for that. But that's my rant, is that we're putting respondents through a tough time as it is, and now we're going to ask them the basic questions over and over again because of our failure to align on variables.
Where would that come from, Brian? Is that Insights Association? Is that SMR? If we're going to come out with standard profilers that everyone should use,
Global
um,
data quality, yeah, it would be through global data quality, which is a whole segment, whole episode in itself, would lead that, and probably SMR. That sounds like an SMR role.
okay,
Um, in pushing companies to align on how to how to what variables to use with questions.
yeah. What about panels who think that their profiling is a competitive advantage?
That's exactly it. We live in an industry we're not a social we're a capitalistic industry, right? And so if you think you have a competitive advantage, you don't have to play by the rules. And we see that with pretty much everything in marketing research. Here's the best practices. If you think your best practices are better than the industry accepted best practices, you're going to do that. No one can really stop you
Yeah.
because the industry, the market will determine if your best practices are better than what industry standard is. And we see that all over the place that some people pick and choose where to kind of align with everyone else and pick and choose where they don't because they have a competitive advantage. And that's the challenge overall with our industry is that
Yeah.
we're a for-profit industry, but that's also the beauty of it, right?
Right. Absolutely. All right. Not too dissimilar. This is kind of around aligning on things. There are two words that apparently mean nothing and everyone uses differently. And it's come up multiple times in the last couple weeks. And I
Uh-oh.
want Global Data Quality ASMR Insights Association. We need some definitions out here, people, because when I hear the word proprietary, and I don't know if that means that, oh, well, they passed through our proprietary digital fingerprinting, and now this is our respondent, or this is our proprietary channel, or this is our no, 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 no. If you tell me you have proprietary sample, you paid the cost of respondent acquisition. And by that, I mean that you paid for them to sign up for your panel from somewhere non-market research related on the internet. They came into a portal and manually entered their address to join your community that you own and that you manage. And if you are using the word proprietary loosely, I think that that is a pretty common way to interpret it. And when a researcher or a sample buyer who's not a researcher asks you for proprietary sample, that's what they mean. And if you're using that word and that is not what it means, shame on you. And it's a huge problem with how many sources there are, how many of the sources are API'd to one another, how many exchanges exist, how many panel companies just don't even have panels. And that word being not a black and white word is a
Yep.
massive problem. And so I just challenge, if someone tells you they have proprietary sample, push them on it. And then if the answer isn't what I just said, never talk to them again.
Um,
And if you're a salesperson or you own a panel and you're using that word loosely, stop. Huge rant. I couldn't believe some of the stories I heard about that offered up organically to us. The people are, hey, what do you
right.
think proprietary means? And I was like, that shouldn't be a question.
This is a big dinner conversation. You got us fired up at dinner than you are right now.
Oh my gosh.
This is a great time to shout out our friends at the Global Data Quality who put together a glossary. The word proprietary sample is not in there. However, there's a submission form which I will be submitting today. I encourage you to do the same if you feel the same way as Andrew. Andrew, you should do it as well. You can export the glossary into a PDF file. It's actually some good work in what we're talking about in building standards. There's some good work being done there that adopting definitions. But again, we adopt all these definitions and then proprietary just goes out the window. I completely agree with you. We used to know what that meant, and now it means almost nothing in our industry. You'll find
I got
us.
one more. Oh, sorry, I got one
Just a
more.
second. Please go. Let's do
Sorry,
this.
it's same thing. Second word that we need to stop throwing around loosely.
All right.
Um, verified or validated.
Yeah.
If someone has gone through digital fingerprinting, that does not make them validated. If
Or
someone
verified or anything.
or verified, validated, verified, I think they're relatively interchangeable in this context.
Yeah.
If someone has double opted in via email, they're not verified.
No.
If they have responded to a text message and said, yes, this is my phone that I have, they're not verified. Stop saying that they are. You need to have a third party verification system for your panel where when someone gives you an address, you don't just say, yes, that is a place, which frankly, I think people aren't even doing that half the time. Most panels aren't even collecting PII like that because they,
You're
you know,
using Axiom in those databases. Yeah.
right. Well, we have an over 99.5% match rate with Axiom. And we validate against all kinds of sources to make sure that not only people are real people, but also that they live where they're saying that they're living. Same thing with like B2B. If you're not, you know, this is another tangent, but like, you know, Zoom info feeds into LinkedIn verification and LinkedIn verification feeds into Zoom info, and there's this feedback loop. And
Yeah.
so like, if you're not Googling if the company is real
Yeah.
and if Acme Solutions is actually a roofing company, no, it's not. It's actually you know, whatever. And look, you can do that. I've seen some really slick solutions to do that with AI, do it in an automated way, but like, we do it manually here, and that's why it you know, our panels perform the way that they do. But if you're just saying, oh yes, they're verified because they went through our digital fingerprinting, again, shame on you. And that's why your clients are removing 20 to 30% of your data. And I'm just going to drop the mic on that. If I ask to buy validated sample and all you're doing is an out of the box software solution, and like, don't get me wrong, there are amazing companies doing amazing work in that space. But, and I'm probably going to use this analogy 50 times in the next year. I'm sick of trying to buy or build a better water filter so that I can drink out of a swamp. I want to start finding good, clean sources of water, in which the case are respondents. And yeah, you just stop saying that things are validated and verified. If you are not confident enough to call a respondent and get them on an IDI with your client, then you haven't verified or validated them. And rant.
Woo, man. Look at you. I like
I'm
this.
fired up this morning. I'm fired up.
Uh, I will say that at RO Rocket, one of the things we do to validate, verify people is we use a third party that will tell us whether a bank will issue them credit.
Hmm.
So if a bank will issue someone credit, to me, that's a very good way to verify that person's a human being, because the risk of giving someone credit that doesn't exist is a lot higher than the risk of the market research surveying industry letting them take a survey for points to redeem for an incentive at some point. So that's one way. That's a little secret that I'll throw out there. If you say you're verifying people, use a third party that can say, you know what, we would give this person credit. They can open a banking account tomorrow. And so that's one of the ways that we do. One of the many little secrets we have. We'll probably throw them all out at some point over the next year on this podcast. All the
We're
different ways that we do stuff.
Yeah, and nothing that we do is a black box, because
Yes.
we're not doing anything that is some crazy secret trick that we found. We're just doing what people aren't willing to do.
Yeah.
And they still won't
That's
be.
it.
They still won't be. So we'll tell you what we do. If you're a researcher, you're like that. If you're a competitor, you're gonna say, "Oh, we can't do it." So
Right.
yeah, happy to say how we do what we do.
Why we
Um,
can't 25-cent sample? That costs
that's why
own 25 cents of more than that.
a lot more than that.
Yeah.
Well, we've gone longer than we intended, as we almost always do, Brian. And that's good. If you've listened this far, thank you so much. I hope that you have gotten a lot about it, out of it, learned a lot about it, and
Well, here's where they'll
yeah,
find us.
yes,
New York City Quirks. You and I won't be there despite us wanting to be there. We're just going other places instead. July 23rd, 24th, Tio will be there. He attends a lot of conferences out of Sausalito. Co-worker of ours will be there. And man, I am excited to announce I'll be at the Future of Insight Summit in Atlanta at Microsoft August 20th and 21st. It's kind of an MMR conference that now is sponsored by the Insights Association, the Southeast chapter, and so it's amazing. To me, it was kind of a secret under the radar best conference in existence that is now becoming more prevalent. And so I'll be there. I'm super excited. You won't be there to join me. It doesn't look like, but I'm sure that you'll see us out there. We're going to be traveling the world over the next few months.
absolutely. We look forward to running into you and to having conversations just like this one. So thank you so much for joining us for Signal and Noise, Brian. It's always such a pleasure.
I love the ending of the rants. We're going to be doing rants every episode just because I feel like I'm working a little bit harder and more efficient and faster and angrier the rest of the day.
I love it. Well, hey, thank you all so much. Have a good day, and we'll hear from you soon.